All right. Hi, everyone. We are back with the latest Gather Creator Spotlight. This today is Shelli Strahle. Shelli is a super brilliant, smart attorney mama. We know each other through the group Polka Dot Powerhouse is where we first met, but we live here in our own same town and have lots of similar areas that we travel around in town. So it's great to be able to connect with someone who's super local right here with me, knowing that she is out there supporting our community and the people in our community to have their kind of legal ducks in a row. Obviously, lots of attorneys cover different things. So I'm going to let Shelli explain a little bit about not only how she got to where she is, but what exactly she does to serve her clients and why it matters. So Shelli, I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the party and tell us a little bit about you and how you got here and why you do what you do.
Sure. Hi. Thank you, Tracy. Thanks for having me. So I am a local will and trust attorney. So I handle wills, trusts, trust administration, and probate. But my main focus is living trusts. So a living trust is a document that you set up to avoid probate. And you choose someone as the trustee to administer the trust if something happens to you, so that if you have minor children, the minors can inherit property. If you have real property or you have assets over 150,000, you can avoid the entire probate process, which is long, it's expensive, it's confusing. You need an attorney to get through it. And actually during COVID, the courts were shut down. So there was no way to transfer assets of a loved one if a living trust wasn't set up or you didn't have assets structured in a way to avoid probate.
I was going to ask you about that because that's one of the things. We're here right now. It's December 2020. We're kind of in the thick of it. We thought that like July was going to be the thick of it. Now it seems like this might be the thick of it. Who knows what's to come? But what you've been talking about all year long is how it's not just hard, it's impossible. To like literally impossible, not just like crazy hard impossible, but it doesn't, the process didn't exist for a while. And I don't know if that's still true and what we can expect, going forward, but that's what I keep hearing you talk about over and over is that if you have this set up, then you can keep going other than just kind of being stuck in the water.
Yeah, and trust create a seamless transition for loved ones. So instead of a year-long court process where you don't even know where to begin, if it's for real property, it's recording one document with the recorder's office and distributing assets according to the trust, and it's usually 2 to 3 months if everyone's getting along.
I was gonna say, it seems like that's, I mean, like there's not a whole lot in the legal system that works that easily.
Yeah, and people just don't understand. They think, oh, I don't need a trust. I don't have a lot of money or you know, so even people, so if you're over age 55 and you get on Medi-Cal, a lot of people don't understand that if your house ends up in probate, even if it's the only asset that you have, the state will come back for reimbursement. But if you have a trust, they're barred from reimbursement. So if you're going on Medi-Cal, pretty much if you own real property in California, you should have a living trust.
Yeah. And that's, I think, one of the big things too, is people don't understand there are so many laws and so many laws change every year. And I know we've talked recently about laws that just changed as a result of the recent election cycle that are starting to get put in place and how crazy that all is. And then people don't really understand A, what they're voting for, and B, the result of what they voted for and how that's really going to affect them and what they can do to be able to mitigate issues as much as possible.
Yeah, so you're referencing Proposition 19. So Proposition 19 goes into effect in February, and it is eliminating the parent-child exclusion to keep your parents' Prop 13 property tax rate. So unless it's the principal residence of the deceased and the child makes it the principal residence, they aren't going to be able to keep that Prop 13 tax basis for property taxes. And there's going to be a limit. So it's your assessed value plus $1 million, whereas before it was unlimited. So, and it's only for principal residences.
Yeah. So if my parent lived here in California and they passed away, I would have to move into that house.
Yeah, and claim
That
the
would be the only way.
yeah, and claim the homeowner's exemption within a year. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't understand. So a lot of people are frantically making moves because of this new law, and they're doing it on their own without going to an attorney. And if you transfer the property to your child now in fear that they're not going to keep the property tax basis, you actually could be hurting them for income taxes, because when someone dies, they get a step up in tax basis for income taxes. So if you bought the house in the 70s and your child is planning on selling anyway, it's better not to transfer it to them now, because they'll have less capital gains. So it's better to talk to an attorney and figure out a game plan. Is it better to transfer now? Is it better to transfer later? And then I've had a lot of people where they might have multiple houses. They're leaving one house to a particular child instead of leaving everything to everyone equally, so that that one child can make it the principal residence. So there's a lot that you have to look into, and exactly. So the laws change. So you need to keep up on that. And then as the estate tax exemption changes over time. So that's federal. And right now under Trump, unless you're really, really rich, you don't have to worry about it, but that's going to be changing. So people in Santa Cruz County, because of real property, might have to think about estate tax again.
There's just so much. And so tell me, so obviously our community expands beyond the Bay Area, beyond Santa Cruz, beyond even California. So for those of you who aren't in California, this may or may not, be related to anything in your world. Obviously, the numbers that affect California property and the values of our properties are different than, say someone in Kansas, or different things like that, especially here in Santa Cruz and in the Bay Area. Tell me, Shelli, what, like, a lot of people think, well, I can just like file a paper like through like LegalZoom or like something, because attorneys are so expensive. So tell me, or tell the people why they should hire someone with the, obvious kind of expertise that you have, and why it's that the value is there, as opposed to being afraid of paying an attorney for something that, could be substantial.
Yeah. Well, from what I've seen, just the pitfalls of Zoom. So Zoom
Not Zoom, but LegalZoom. We love Zoom.
Right. Sorry. LegalZoom.
And it's just an example, right? Of like an online filing, whatever it might be.
So a service like that is not drafting the document for you. It is helping you draft the document yourself. So you are the person that is making sure everything is put in place correctly. So I've seen a lot of cases end up in court where everyone is fighting because the person didn't input the information correctly, and everyone knew that that's not what the deceased meant. So there are issues with just inputting the wrong information. There are California specific documents that an attorney knows that an attorney would need as the basis for a court order if all of the assets weren't properly put in trust. And through LegalZoom, I don't think that it's robust enough to include all of those documents. The other thing is for power of attorney, that gets sent to a bank's legal team. A lot of times, documents that are from just online services aren't going to be robust enough to give you all of the powers that you need for retirement powers and everything like that.
Yeah.
The other thing is trust funding. So when you deal with an attorney, they help you fund your trust. That means changing title to assets that need to be put into instead of you owning it in your own name, that you as trustee of your trust would own it. So a lot of people don't know how to do that on their own. So an attorney is going to draft the real property deeds, transferring title. If you own property in another state, I can connect someone to an attorney in that state. And so we work with someone there to handle that. The other thing on a national basis, so if you own property in multiple states, you're going to have a probate in every state where you have real property and the fees associated with it. When you have a living trust, you have one trust administration where the successor trustee is located, or if they want to hire an attorney in the state where it was created. So, but you're still just going to have one administration, and
that's huge.
It's a huge
for some people. Obviously, I can't say that I have, my vacation house here, there, and everywhere, and all these different properties. But I do know people who have rentals in Texas, and where their kid went to college, they bought a condo and they rent it instead of. having them live in the dorms and, lots of different things like that. You never know. Everyone obviously has a unique situation. And it's funny because as someone who, I will never claim to have all of my ducks in a row either. And that I don't. And here I am talking to you again, thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I really have to get this taken care of. And, it's really, it's a little overwhelming to hear all of the things that it all encompasses. But I think that's kind of the point, is that it's a lot. And I don't have there's no way that I would do it right if I tried to do something myself, even if what you can find, there's just things are going to get missed. I mean, that's why you're the expert, and why it is an investment in your situation and in your future and in your family's future to, we talk about the cost of coaching, the cost of paying someone like yourself to make sure that it's all done right. That's a huge benefited investment. It's not a cost.
Right. And if you do it incorrectly, you end up in probate. So you basically have,
if you can, based on COVID, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, now they're having the hearings through Zoom, but it's still a year-long process. It's still going to be expensive. So it's a huge cost saving. So if you own property in Santa Cruz County, let's just say you have the fair market value of your house at death is $1 million, and you have a few other assets, and you're looking at probably over $50,000 in probate fees. And to set up a living trust, just depending on your assets, it's going to be, I'd say roughly $2,500 to $3,000.
Wow.
The average range. So you're saving your loved ones by you paying ahead of time. You're saving your loved ones a lot of money in comparison.
Wow. That, I don't think I've ever heard you talk about that. And that's amazing. Cause I'm thinking, like I said, I'm thinking about our personal situation and just going this is something I could take to my husband and go, you know what, we really do need to do this. Cause guess what? XYZ.
Right.
And wow.
And then with minor children. Mm-hmm. So the children, when you don't have a living trust set up, they are going to need a guardianship, not only of who is going to take care of them, which is a guardianship of the person, but they're going to need a guardianship of the estate.
Right.
It's very hard to get money when there's a guardianship of the estate. The money is usually put in a blocked account, and you have to get a court order to release any funds. But here's the worst part. At 18, the children get it all. So
party.
I don't know any 18-year-olds that but usually they aren't ready to receive it.
Well,
so
and
with a trust, you decide when they get to have it. So you can structure it where they get it at 23, where they get it at 25, if you want them to have it 30, if you want certain conditions before they get it, if you want them to receive it after they've been through college, so they apply for financial aid.
Right. So, so many things. And I had a tiny amount given to me when I turned 18, nothing near the numbers that we're talking about. And I totally blew it. And I remember it to this day. That was so why did I even have the ability to touch that money? And, but I was also a mature 18-year-old. It's just 18. It's not, whether the kid is responsible or not for an 18-year-old, I wasn't out, going super crazy, but I totally spent the money. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's awesome. Crazy good. Okay. So tell me how the lack of this information is affecting families in our area. Because of the laws that are changing, obviously, because of the backed up probate system, we've got a lot of people, struggling with managing all of this estate and assets and money and all of this stuff. Tell me how that ends up trickling to affect a community.
Yeah. Well, so just from a real estate perspective, if someone is trying to sell a home and the seller passes away, that sale is dead in the water, and it's going to be a year before really anything, at least 6 months until the executor can be appointed and step in and it's probably not going to be the same sale. And a lot of times the sale has to go through court with court confirmation, depending on the circumstances.
Ugh.
So,
It's not just your
and
typical
when,
buy and sell a house situation anymore.
yeah, and if you go through the court confirmation process, you have to allow overbidders. So it's not even a straight sale. It's almost like an auction.
Wow.
Everyone can come in and overbid. So it's a weird, it's completely different. Whereas a trust, the successor trustee can come in and continue the sale if they want that sale to
Oh,
go.
wow.
So that's, so from a real estate perspective, it's better for everyone to have a trust so that that can happen.
Just the train can keep moving along on the path that it was already on.
Right. From a creditor perspective, having an estate go through probate is a forum for creditors. So creditors can come in and, like I said, the Department of Healthcare Services comes in as the biggest creditor and will force a sale of the house. Even, and if the final expenses and, you know, if they were in long-term care exceed the value of the house, they're just going to take the entire value. So it's really sad and people don't understand that. So so trusts are private. The only thing that's publicly recorded is the real property deed. So there's nothing that gets recorded with a trust. You deal with the banks, you deal with your family and just the recorder's office. So it's a big difference in terms of creditors, in terms of privacy, and in terms of price.
Wow.
And headache. It's hard, you know, it's multiple filings when you're going through probate versus signing a few documents and moving on with the trust.
It seems like that would get really old really fast and really frustrating, and it would just go on, feeling like kind of like this year, feeling like it's just never ending, right? That it just keeps going, not really getting a whole lot better until all of a sudden you finally get to the end.
Well, and another huge difference is with a trust, you can immediately use trust funds to pay for, if you do need an attorney to help you through the process, you can pay for the attorney with trust funds. You can pay a CPA if you need tax services. Anything you need, you can use trust funds versus going through probate. It takes a long time to even get appointed as executor of the will or personal representative of the estate. And
do you end up having like out-of-pocket expenses?
Well,
in
yeah,
the
so there are
meantime, right?
filing
That's what you're
fees.
saying.
So every petition, it's over $500 to file the initial petition, and then it goes on. So eventually you're going to get access to the money, but it doesn't have the same ease and flexibility.
Yeah. Well, you know, you used a word that is a huge word in my life right now, which is trying to have things come more easily. You know, after going through this year and kind of making sure that the things that used to be easy now that are hard, to try to make them easier, you know, with our kids home doing distance learning, or, you know, different people with their job situations and having to revamp exactly how they're living their days. That, you know, we were all in a routine and that routine got completely blocked, and that ease is something I think that we can all remember, that things maybe were easier, and to look at the future saying, you know what, if I want to feel better on a day-to-day basis, if I want to have you know, a more kind of, you know, we all want a life of ease. Like that's kind of the basis of what humans want, right? We don't want things to be hard. We want things to be easy. That's why we have like weight loss pills and things like that. But at the same time, that's just because that's human nature. A life of ease is more fun and more interesting and more, it's just more easeful. And so this is another way where we can put some ease into our life by just a little bit of pre-planning, a little bit of preparation, and a little bit of looking at the bigger picture and not at the smaller picture of, well, that's complicated and I don't really understand it, so I'm going to go over here and not pay attention to that right now.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't want to think about this because it's hard to think about your own.
Because it's about death.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, my story and having a history with people passing away in my immediate family, that's not a conversation I'm afraid to have, but I can totally understand that you know, people don't want to think about, I mean, they don't want, on the one hand, they don't want things to be hard for the people they leave behind, but they also don't want to really have a lens on their own mortality or on their parents, right? Like, because maybe it's not even for you, but maybe your parents don't have anything set up. And if they're aging and you're already taking care of them, like help them finish that for them and for you.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's so many pluses.
Estate planning is a gift for your loved ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about creating peace of mind, and you know, even if it's just the things that you own, you know, a lot of people end up fighting over the couch or artwork or that one piece of jewelry, and during the estate plan you can handle that.
Yeah.
So,
you know, it's funny, my first husband grew up in New Orleans and was the youngest of 9. And there was always conversations, I think maybe partially because his father had passed away at a relatively young age, but his mom lived to a ripe old age, in her 90s. But there was conversations from many years past of like, they're going through the house, putting their names on things and stuff like that, right? All of that kind of claim stuff. Now, of course, Katrina hit, and that all kind of went out the window, but it is something that I remember from a long time ago of a family who, you know, maybe they don't all see eye to, they're a very close family actually, but a family could not see eye to eye, you know, a pair of siblings might not particularly get along. And if something happens and there's nothing written down, what do? You fight, right? Because they never got along in the first place. So why are they going to get along now?
yeah. Well, and then on the other side of the coin, a lot of people think I don't need an estate plan. I just have one child, so it's going to be easy. But what people don't understand is that one child is still going to have to go through probate and the fees associated with it. And if you only have the house, it's going to force a sale to pay the attorney to get through probate. If you only have the house and you go on Medi-Cal, it's still going to have the fees associated with that. So,
and as a single child, they have to pay it all.
Yeah. So it's not just about fighting. It's having an estate plan is just creating ease for anyone that you love. And maybe you don't have children. Maybe you want to make sure that your sister or friend or partner that you're not married
to, or your favorite charity or whatever, your dog. We've heard about that, right?
Yeah, so pet trusts are valid in California. I draft pet trusts. I've done it for dogs, cats, and horses, especially horses because they live a long time.
Because they're expensive. Yeah. And they live a long time. You're right. My daughter wants to get a snake. Could you write a snake trust for her?
I could.
That's awesome. Because that snake's going to live a long time. Amazing. Well, so, okay. And I love this because, and what I love about you is you're so down to earth and like real human person and not like, you know, and I'm sure that you get that a lot. Like you're Shelli, right? You're not some stuffy old guy, you know, Esquire, whatever. I mean, you are, but that's not you as a person, right? That's you as your expertise and your abilities. So I love that you can bring this to kind of a real conversation that's less intimidating, even though you say all kinds of words and scary things that everyone's afraid of. You know, it's a lot nicer to get that from someone who you can look at as, you know, someone that's in your community and part of your neighborhood and part of your world, as opposed to kind of this separate kind of
I'll never forget what someone in my office told me one day. I came out after a client meeting and, you know, the door's shut, but you can kind of hear
you laughing
sounds. Yeah. And she said, I don't understand. You talk about death and I just always hear you laughing in your office.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, because if it's all, you know,
you either laugh or you cry. So
yeah, I mean, if you're not finding that joy it's the whole joy in the journey thing. Like, yeah, this is all real. And yes, we're all going to die and people we love are going to die and all that. And but that's not to be a downer. That's to just say, you know, live every day, prepare for your future, prepare for your loved ones. Like you said, that planning your estate is a gift for your loved ones. So, and that's great. You should have that like tagline. That's your tagline. Preparing your estate, planning your estate. Estate planning is a gift for your loved ones. So I love it. tell me, so you're obviously really busy with the law changes that are going to be taking place in February. I know that's what we talked about not long ago. And we've got, this is like this video is not going to just be for this, week or whatever. So tell people where they can find you, and tell people where, like, your jurisdiction situation. Is it just California? Is it like, talk about that.
Okay, so I'm licensed in California, but if you do own property in another state as well, I'm a member of Wealth Council. We're a national organization, so I can go on my listserv and find attorneys in that other state to handle just that particular property.
Great.
Or if you have a business interest and your entity was formed in another state, I can find an attorney for that as well.
Great.
Yeah, so I'm only licensed in California. I tend to
That's
work,
a lot of people. So
yes, I tend to work in the Bay Area. So Santa Cruz County, Monterey County, Santa Clara County, San Benito County. So those are my main counties that I tend to work in, but my parents actually live up in Auburn. And so I work in Placer County, El Dorado County. So the areas up
great.
there.
And
I'll
there's a lot of
handle.
people that'll see this that are like Sacramento kind of general
Yeah, around
area.
there. Yeah, so that region around Sacramento, I'll handle up there as well. But I can really handle, so this entire process can be virtual until signing day. So that's the issue, is that at least on signing day, we need to meet in person. So if you live in Redding, it's not really going to be a good fit unless you want to take a trip to Santa Cruz, at least for that one day.
Right.
So.
And people can find you at your website, which is?
So the website is www.santacruzestateplanning.com.
Easy to remember, Santa Cruz Estate Planning, because that's where we're at.
Yeah, phone number is 831-621-2165. And my email is Shelli, Shelli, at santacruzestateplanning.com.
Awesome. And we'll have those, in the post, and of course, in the Gather community, you have your landing page with all your contact information. This video will live there as well as on YouTube. And are you still opening your office?
Yes, so I'm moving my physical office in January. Very exciting. Upgrading to a bigger office, great conference room, really excited. But I just wanted to go back to about the meeting. So I offer a complimentary consultation. So the way that my services work, so it's usually billed flat fee if I'm drafting a trust, and it's dependent on your marital status, what type of assets you have, because real property is going to be harder than if you just have investment accounts. So it depends on the type of asset.
Kind of list it all out, and then it calculates.
Yeah, so you'll know exactly how much it's going to cost. Trust administration is billed hourly. And if someone is just seeking legal advice about a particular issue, that's also billed hourly. And then probates it's a percentage of the estate, and it's done by state law. And so that's why you want to avoid that process. So even though it's great, I get paid a lot at the end, I prefer to do trust and trust administration because you're not dealing with the court system.
Yeah. And in effect, preventing other people from having to deal with the court system as well, which is all good. Well, great. Well, so this has been fantastic. I always love hearing the details of why this is important and what you do, and how much, you have to offer in the conversation and the understanding of what it really means to, myself, or to us as individuals and to our families. I'm super glad that we had a chance to go over all of this again today. And I hope that anyone who's watching will really consider, if you don't have an estate plan in place and you have investments, or you have a home that you own, or rental property that you own, or both, and you don't have something in place, talk to Shelli. She's so easy to talk to. Seriously, there's only good reasons to at least have a conversation. So highly recommend. Thank you so much for being here today. Really glad that we had the time. It's tough in everyone's busy schedules to make it work. So I'm glad it all worked out, and we will see you again super soon.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. My pleasure.